Hello everyone. I welcome you to a very interesting video by Legacy IAS. All those appearing for the next year 2023 examination, it's time for you to believe. It's time for you to believe that you will be able to get and secure 110 plus marks in 2023. You heard me right. There are some very important tricks that you basically, or rather, some very important approaches that you basically can adopt, can use. These are some of the methodologies which have been tried and tested over the last couple of years, especially. The orientation of the UPSC examination is not just content driven, it's how you address, solve, and approach a particular question. You're not expected to also know everything under the sun. But how do you approach the problem? Try to understand it from the perspective of a civil servant. A civil servant also on the job, is it's not possible as a human to know each and everything in terms of the job that he might be doing. So how do you solve those things which you also don't know? How do you minimize the situation, minimize the areas, the problematic areas that can arise, and yet achieve and reach to the right answer? That is where particularly the preliminary examination, which has become more of elimination examination, has turned out to be. So which is why I keep telling you that it is a certain approach that you basically need for this examination, and with this approach a lot of your hurdles with regards to getting the correct score, the perfect score for prelims, will be achieved. So let's look into it. Now, as far as the approach of the examination is concerned, it's very important to understand that as far as any paper, any subject of UPSC examination is concerned, okay, be it prelims or even mains, there are some topics and some areas which you specifically have to kind of look into. Especially true with the prelims. For example, if you are talking about modern India, then you definitely have to do questions like Quit India movement and the non-cooperation movement and the boycott and Swadeshi movement, right? Or if you're doing, let's say, polity, then you have to know some important areas of the president, fundamental rights for sure, directive principles. Okay, there are some areas from which maximum and year after year questions are being asked. So our main clue of looking or identifying at these favorite questions that are there of the UPSC is by going through the last 10 years questions. The last 10 years questions not only help you to identify these areas, but also help you to look at a lot of questions, and a lot of times there is repetition as far as these questions are concerned. Lot of times these questions get repeated. Lot of times the options become new questions. Lot of times options come in different type of but very similar questions. So the point is that the 10 years papers kind of give you an idea that this is how we should be approaching our current examination. This is how we should be writing, and this is the area which we should definitely prepare. We cannot miss out on some of the important things. So that is how subject after subject, if you keep on doing the previous year's question, you essentially get an idea that these are the things that I have definitely have to do, and constant repetition is often seen in these papers. All right. The next is, how do we ensure that we maximize upon the scores? There is a very good tried and tested methodology, which is the art of elimination. All right. Now, the art of elimination is something which has become so very important in the current times, where you are able to eliminate, let's say, two options, but you are stuck with the last two. Okay. That is when you have to go back to your revisions and conceptual clarity and logical. But at the same time, we can also always look at some important cues, like how do we eliminate? All right, what are the main ways or the main strategies through which we can basically eliminate our entire options here? All right, so when we look at some extreme words that are there in the statements, none of these wetlands, none of these mountains, none of these seas or oceans, all right? None of the constitutional provisions. There, if there are all, none, okay? When nothing is being there, then it should really raise a red flag in your mind that there might be something wrong with this question. And if you have done your basic preparation and if you revised well, there is a good possibility that you will be able to eliminate those particular options. All right. Now, as far as particularly science and technology questions are concerned, it has been observed that more or less, if there is a decent enough chance for this particular technology to have these kind of applications or usage, or this is how that particular technology is, or something that you've not read but it is recently in the news, and or even if it is not in the news, it's published in a paper. The idea is that if there is a possibility for that event to happen, then under the section of science and technology, they are generally treated as true. All right. So you can really look out for them. You can just keep it in mind. And these kind of strategies will apply only and only if you practice a lot of mocks. Once you practice a lot of mock tests on your own, you will get an idea that yes, these are the kind of things which work and these are the kind of things which don't work. So instead of just trying to remember a lot of details, it's also important to apply that information, apply your basic logical understanding. In case of economics also, sometimes there are these statements with regards to steadily increase or decrease. So keep looking for these terms, terminologies where the art of elimination can basically quickly remove and eliminate some of the statements and can really help you come down to the accurate answer. And accuracy is the key as far as the prelims are concerned. Now, if we look at another way of approaching it, is how we need to make calculated assessments. Okay, calculated guess and intelligent guesswork. Now, a lot of times there is usage of words of contemporary, that two people are contemporary, or for that matter, that these two people kind of came during the same time. Such kind of words, terminologies, you'll generally see the more and more you'll do your mock papers, you will yourself come to this understanding that yes, there is a tendency of these statements kind of going wrong. So the key to using any of these methods, strategies is to do many number of mocks. The more mock tests you give, especially for prelims, the more previous year's questions that you do, you will get an idea that this is the direction in which I have to move, I have to think and focus. All right, then any of these strategies will become relevant to you. A lot of times, basically, you get a particular option in one of the questions, and that option is also repeated in some other question as well. When that happens, it basically means that in either of these two questions, that particular option has to be correct. Okay, it is when I say has, it's also with a disclaimer that there is a general tendency. So these kind of strategies have come up after kind of understanding the papers over the last few years and basically getting a sense out of it. So in that sense, multiple or rather options in multiple questions can really be a move towards how you should answer your question. This is also available in the recently coming up to 2 pairs correct or only 3 pairs correct. You can use the same strategy for these questions as well. Again, coming back to the very important part is that if you are able to look at or pinpoint or pick up, let's say Bhakti Sufi movement or Harappan civilization, all right, in economics, banking is very important. All right, so where you basically that these are the topics which are definitely very relevant and important. So even if these topics and these options or rather these terms come as options in any of these questions, generally there is a possibility that that option is correct. Okay, so if there are some UPSC favorite topics or some areas which generally come in the options also, try to see that if unless and until there is a strong reason why that option is not correct, there is a possibility that those options are your right answers. All right. One final thing is that you have some very important things to remember while appearing for the examination. Now, on the date of the examination, when you're looking at the question, let's say there are a lot of times when questions are asked that what is this? So for example, you have some terms or some terminologies and phrases about which you don't know the answer to. It is a good idea to look at the Hindi meanings, or rather the Hindi version of that particular statement, that terminology or that term. It can give you a sense or a hint that this one of these options might be true, because if the Hindi meaning is making some sense, then that sense can be used to your options which are there in English. So that can be a good reference point for you to pick up some of the Hindi translations of those words. Often we miss out on very, very basic things like not correct. Okay, which of this is not the correct answer, or which of this is incorrect? Just be very careful on the day of the examination. Just come up with the most open mind possible. You don't, or you just don't want to make these kind of mistakes on the day of the examination. All right, so keep an open mind, be active, sleep well. It really helps you take a long journey as far as the prelims ultimate result is concerned. It is also very important that just before the prelims, you basically, the 1 month which goes, you practice and solve a lot of mock papers. And these mock papers should be solved not with the purpose of memorizing, to check how much are you able to remember. It is not a memory test. Remember, it is more of an application test. When you treat it like an application test, only then you will be able to use your brain in a way that you can logically deduce or come to the right answer. Don't try to recollect where you read that particular thing. Instead, when you keep on doing multiple mocks, when you do a good analysis of those mocks, why are you getting a particular question wrong or you're getting a particular question right, how much is your intelligent and calculated guessing working? All right, how much is your art of elimination working? Try to make those analysis at the time of the mock, and once that is done, then use it to your advantage as far as the final day of the examination is concerned. So all these learnings, when put together at the time of the examination, is hopefully really going to get you that beautiful score at the prelims, which will help you and make you ready for the mains. So I really hope you're all ready, geared up, and can use these approaches before you start practicing your mock papers. So I wish you all the very best. Share it with your friends who really are in trouble and trying to get that perfect score. If you have found these tips very useful, hit the like button and also subscribe. Thank you so much.